Saving WoW the systems. Now, what systems is he talking? I know people have been complaining about Mythic Plus and some other stuff. Maybe does our boy Marcellian have a solution to some of these WoW systems? A lot of people were in an uproar about the recent expansion leaks and stuff like. They're saying
this is where the fun begins.
Yeah, they're saying it doesn't look fun. They're saying it does. These things don't look exciting because it looks more of the same. Let's see if Marcellian has a solution.
This WoW have a problem, or 5. WoW is not dead, but it is slowly coming back to life, and what better way to bring players back than fixing its core systems. And I am talking about raiding and Mythic Plus, to name a few. No raid lockouts, animal powers in dungeons are just the start, and actually, let's just get into the video. All that is fine and dandy, but the currency is one of the building blocks of the expansion. It will make all the other improvements make sense, and here is how we fix it. It will have to be seasonal based, since we will never have a situation where we can farm a currency in season 1 and immediately spend it in season 2 for giga power gains. In the past, we had Titan Residuum in BFA, which was either deleted from the character when a new season started, or prices for it have skyrocketed to a point where it didn't matter how much you have already farmed. And the best way I found it to be done is to have the currency turned into gray items that will just reward gold. Hopefully a decent amount of gold to feel at least worth it, but not too much to be silly. The currency we will have has to be something more or less evergreen, so let's call it hero coins for the sake of this video. It can function.
Alright, yeah, currency in this game has always been a problem.
Function similar to curious coins or doubloons or valor, but in an actual good way. First off, how will you get this coin? Well, as far as PvE goes, and we can have the equivalent PvP system rewarded similarly, we will get 1 coin per raid boss in LFR, 5 per boss in normal difficulty, 10 for heroic, and 20 for mythic raid bosses. That way we eliminate the need of having a different currency for each difficulty, since you just get way more by doing harder content, while if you cannot do harder content, you can still farm lower content and still
yeah, this is probably better than the current crest system that they have, where you just give more of the same currency every time you do a harder piece of content. I don't get why we need different currency for every piece of content. That gets confusing as hell.
Eventually get high amounts of this coin. This way players that push themselves feel rewarded for their effort.
Who is that in chat? Who the hell made that account?
While players who like it chill still have access to it, just having to grind it more. I will not go into I won't have time to play enough to keep up argument, since that's likely a whole video on its own, and hey, if you really want to discuss it, hit that like button, and if we get like, I don't know, 1,000 likes, I will begin writing the script for it immediately. Now, the coin will drop in dungeons as well, which is important. It will start with heroic dungeons, mostly because we already know heroic dungeons will contribute towards the vault, same as time walking, I imagine. You'll get 1 coin per dungeon, 3 for a mythic 0 dungeon, and for mythic plus you will get 2 plus the dungeon key level in coins, so a plus 10 would give you 12, just slightly more than a heroic raid boss, and a plus 20 will give 22, just slightly more than a mythic boss. This is just to make every key level actually matter. World boss will also give you 12, since it's only once per week.
See, what he's essentially done here, he's talking about all these different things you can do. They're all giving the same coins, just different amounts.
And together with the world events like feasts and time rifts that will give you 1 per run, no cap per week, will make open world content meaningful. This, of course, will also let people who don't enjoy Mythic Plus or raids or both still have another way to get the coins in a relative manner, while making all content relevant at the same time for the entire patch. You won't feel bad for not doing a dungeon by doing a time rift, for instance, which is good. Now, this coin will be used to upgrade gear. For the sake of this video again, we will take the current gear types as a reference and to make it easier to explain. But obviously, all of these can be changed, although if anything, I think the gear names are actually evergreen. LFR and heroic dungeons will drop veteran gear, and this will require 1 hero coin per eye level increase in any upgrade.
Crazy thing about this,
mythic zeros will
this is
drop
so simple. This is such a simple solution, and yet I don't know why we haven't done this.
Champion gear and require 2 hero coins per eye level upgrade. Heroic raids and Mythic
currency.
plus 2 through 15, or it can really be whatever key number that awards the KSM achievement. If you do all of them at that level, will drop heroic gear or hero gear and will require 4 coins per eye level, while Mythic rating and M plus 16 or higher, maybe 16 is too low, maybe it can be 20 and higher, they will drop myth level gear and cost 8 hero coins per eye level to upgrade. This is all considering the eye level ranges we now have in 10.1.7, which will be different in 10.2. The numbers can be played with by making the eye level ranges bigger and lowering the cost, or vice versa.
They are in fact making the eye level range bigger in the next season. Season 3 is going to have a larger eye level gap, so they've already done that.
And the veteran gear can be upgraded to champion, hero, and myth eventually, so that I don't freaking loot the same goddamn cape 3 to 4 times over the course of a patch. That's stupid. And if people will start complaining, you can just put a cost on the upgrade in an appropriate amount of coins to make it feel like the player earned their gear. This way, people who cannot endgame raid can still acquire endgame level gear. They just need to farm and grind for it more, which I think it's still fair, considering they would be eventually acquiring gear beyond their player's skill level. Another thing the hero coin will be used for will be loot rerolls. Yep, the seals we had before to reroll boss loot will be done by the same currency. It will just be very expensive, of course, to prevent exploiting it. The price can be, of course, adjusted, but my initial estimate would be to be able to reroll as many times as you want, provided you have the coin. Capping is stupid. Putting walls on fun is stupid, even if the arguments sound valid. It's time we break those walls and just let players go nuts with their gameplay. Make veteran level content cost 5 coins for a reroll, whether it's a dungeon chest or raid boss. Champion gear will require 25 coins, so 5 times as high. Hero will be 50 and myth will be 100. The reasoning for this is...
Mr. Raz, I do agree with you. I do agree with you. The best gear should always come from the hardest, raid content. Totally agree. But there should be some backstops, even if you're not going to get better gear, just to get the gear you need from the current content you're doing. Some kind of, like just anti-bad luck, I guess. That if you grind something long enough, you will eventually get the piece you need, even if you have bad luck.
Take myth, for example. 100 coins are required from 5 killed mythic bosses, or 5.5555555.
The little council thing that you get tier pieces from, that's kind of what that was. It was a bad luck
mythic plus 16s, or 4.5 plus 20s keys, with the level being subject to change based on, balance. Taking the raid example, you kill 5 bosses, you are guaranteed to get an item. It's time we stop this 8 boss clearing runs with no loot dropped. Yes, it happened to Marcellian in back-to-back raid weeks of clearing the entire Aberrus raid. It's stupid, it has to go, or at least give us a fail-safe way to guarantee at least 1 item, not tied to RNG, and instead behind playing more. Also, you kill 5 mythic bosses every week if you are not a top-end game player and just a regular mythic raider. It will take some time. I believe it's good enough. All of these will solve a bunch of issues we have today. Unlimited coins with no cap eliminates the need for a gear vendor, since you can eventually re-roll for items when you have too many. We won't have bad feelings when we raid a whole night or back-to-back keys and never get any items. The cost of re-rolls is to ensure that after 5 bosses you can at least get an item, and the re-roll being per boss lets you target the loot table and eliminate even more of that RNG. A lot of people have asked for seals to be back. There you go, your seals. The vault will also swap tokens of merit for hero coins in the amount equivalent to the difficulty of the content you completed. By extension, these will let you buy sockets as well, which can be priced accordingly. Say, I don't know, 500 hero coins to really make sure this will be an endgame thing, just like sockets are now.
So far, the main thing he's done is eliminate multiple currencies, which is a big problem in the game, I have to say.
And lastly, to solve endgame issues when players have no need for hero coins, you can also just exchange them for renown and gold, which is already done by tokens of merit.
The renown thing is a great idea, because I refuse to grind out renown in any way whatsoever. but I do grind down multiple raid clears a week, so this would be great for someone like me.
Play WoW. After you decked your character, you can make gold and level up your faction's renown by just doing the content you like. How is this not better than the currency we have when we can do anything in the game to get it and spend it on pretty much everything that's important instead of having 5 currency that work interchangeably with 1 to 2 gear type upgrades. And as a closing thought on currencies and a hot take that's gonna make some people mad, more than one currency will make the game into a convoluted mess akin to mobile games that use multiple currencies to trick you into more microtransactions. For WoW, it will just trick you into player retention and increasing your subscription uptime. No more of that, thanks. Renown and dailies will be—
Damn, I didn't think about it, but is that why they do it? Because you have to grind out multiple currencies, which means you have to play more, which means you have to stay sub longer. I don't. That's an interesting thought. I hadn't thought about it.
Made account wide ASAP. No negotiations, no soft caps or caps of any kind, no catch up, just make them account wide. Enough of this half measure shit. It's old, it's boring, it's stupid to have to level renown for a second time. It does not add to player immersion, it does not make for interesting gameplay. Make renown harder to level, but make them account wide. If I hop into an alt and do whatever content, I don't want to feel bad for not grinding that renown on my main character instead. WoW is a game of alts now, and if you don't like alts, you don't lose out on anything. Is it prestigious to have max renown on more than one character? Not for me. Renown is actually way better than reputations in Dragonflight, and when they do become account-wide, the devs can put more levels and more non-player power rewards on it. Or maybe they can put player power rewards if they are account-bound, huh? Wouldn't that be interesting? More on this in the soon-to-come rewards part of this video series, but as a quick tease, some of the more interesting rewards can impact open world stuff like giving us more mount speed, gathering speed, and so on. As for dailies, we want them back, but again, not capped, so if I like farming dailies, I can just farm all I want, since if they reward renown, which can be bought with hero coins, it won't really force me to do unlimited dailies for renown. I can just do dungeons and use the hero coins to buy the renown.
See, one reason why this probably would never happen is he's eliminating a lot of in-game grind. And in-game grind, you know, ups player time. So it's a good idea. But he's eliminating a lot of the grind time.
Not doing dailies because I don't like them. On top of this, dailies will reward 1 hero coin each. That way, if you do decide to do dailies for max renown efficiency, you can still amass a number of hero coins for renown, or that can eventually be used for gearing purposes. Once again, making this content relevant at all levels of player progression while retaining efficiency for its respective design intention. First things first, bring 10-man back. You excited now? 10-man would fix a few issues. The need of an extensive guild with a lot—
I'm actually more interested in getting 40-man raiding back, to be honest. I love the massiveness of a raid and just feeling like there's tons of people trying to do the same thing at once.
More people, which seems to be more and more difficult to manage. It will reduce the amount of social friction between people, since there are definitely those in the game and guilds that just like a small part of their raiders and would prefer to just play with them instead of being forced to play with people they don't like. This will also incentivize more people to play tanks and healers, since you'll just need more of them if the groups are smaller. That can potentially fix queuing up for other things in the game easier, since you just have more tanks, for instance. Honestly, this next one will sound like a diss to the devs, but the reason I am so gung-ho on this is that they have shown themselves so competent. I am 100% sure that they can make this happen. But the balance argument against 10-man is bad. Whatever other argument against it in the past is bad. People want it. People will have fun with it. I know a bunch already, and why wouldn't you want players to be happier doing the stale old gameplay that is raiding in a better way? Second, remove raid lockouts. It's time. We all love the lockouts a lot. It helped.
I've said the lockouts 1,000 times over. Remove the damn lockouts. You can still loot lock people, but don't lock people out of mythic raids, because all it does is limit the amount of people who can ever experience a mythic raid, especially towards the end of an expansion. If you want to lock out mythic raids, just do it for the race to world first, and then unwrap that shit.
With races to world first, but it's time we lived in the future. People that like raiding shouldn't be told to not play anymore. No sense. It makes no sense. Raids are actually fun. I want to raid more, and why wouldn't I? Why not farm the same boss more? Who cares about getting gear faster? Who cares? If it makes the game more fun, why does that matter? You can make bosses harder. You can make the loot drop affect the increase in farm rate, but remember, not too low drop chance, since you still need players to raid with. And realistically, how many people would would actually
Yeah, I'm not
raid
down for 10
non-stop
man raids.
anyway.
I
And
want
I'm not
30.
talking
I
about
want
the
40
high-end gamers which will always farm their content to no end. Some barely log in today and they just do it to raid the weekly raid with the guild and then play Final Fantasy. Why not give them more of what they want? Third, and this is probably the most controversial point of this whole video, feel free to criticize it, make raid loot relevant for more than one season. Hear me out. The way we can implement it can be debated in a way where it doesn't really feel boring, overpowered, or annoying. And before you say whatever you want to say against it, remember the fated season of Shadowlands. If that godforsaken expansion taught us anything, is that when all of the content is available, more people play it, more people enjoy it. Oh, and what's this? Did the fated season have a gear vendor that was selling gear for specific coins that were gained by looting the bosses, no RNG? Similar to the hero coins, you say?
Yeah,
and
but
people
that was an end of
absolutely adored it?
expansion thing.
Interesting. Now, the way the raid gear can be made relevant is by making the items upgradable.
If you had fated raiding for every single, raid in the expansion, basically, or made raid gear relevant, it would just, I don't know. I feel like the main motivation in an MMORPG is gear progression. And if you eliminate that or make it slightly less important because you're making old raid gear relevant, then it just kind of de-incentivizes you to do the new raid.
To the next tier with hero points. For instance, say we are in a Yggdrasil and we
Maybe
have a
for
Grief
cool
Torch from
items like
season
you guys
1
are
at
mentioning.
season 1 eye level. We spend a bunch of hero coins to upgrade it to season 2 and then more to season 3. The risk is it being stronger than what a Yggdrasil drops. The balance would be the only real issue that I recognize here. If it's too strong, players who looted it won't feel incentivized to loot the new trinkets, which I think it's bad. So maybe restrict the eye level at which it can be upgraded to one tier below what the current season
Maybe,
had.
but it would also require, like, if, say, somebody joins, starts playing WoW again, like, next season, and they're a Drakthir player, they would need to go back and do the old raid content to get the old weapon because it's still relevant and it's still the best in slot item. That kind of fucks it up. I don't know. Because then it's hard to do old raid content. How are you going to get a group? All that stuff. I don't know about making old raid content that relevant. Until you do the Fated season, then it's fine, because then it's a free-for-all. It's the end of the expansion anyway.
That way we make the gear more relevant, we make old raids more relevant. And in the end, if it's so strong, so fucking what? Rogues loved it when they could use Sylvanas daggers in the last season. What they probably didn't love is the acquisition of the gear, which is fair. But that wouldn't be a problem anymore with unlimited raid farms and reroll options. You would most likely have the gear already. And to eliminate the worry of stuff like Grief Torch being stronger than any 10.2 trinket, just make it incredibly expensive to level up to season 3 eye levels, but let people who looted it use it, even if they have to no-life the game to get it leveled up. And all of these numbers can just be tuned in a way that just feels good, because once again, if they are willing to spend a stupid amount of hero coins to level it up, what's the problem? It's their time, they paid for the game, they made the choice. Also, by allowing this and no raid lockouts, people can actually transmog farm easier, mount farm easier, and by releasing the cap on raids, you automatically increase the amount of groups that will be formed to facilitate all of this. And in the end, if it doesn't work, we will at least know and can move on. But we can all...
I don't mean no raid lockout in terms of, like, he's talking about loot too. I don't think a loot should be unlocked. I just think people should be able to go into a raid and help other people do the raid too if they want to. You can loot lock people. And also Mythic is extra dumb because if you kill the first boss, you're locked for the entire raid. Just lock per boss, like you do with Heroic. There's no reason to do that shit with Mythic. It's ridiculous.
Agree that raiding has become a bit stale and predictable, similar to Mythic Plus. So let's crack this one too. Adjust the scaling of the dungeon to match the new currency hero coin while increasing the level of keys, aka a current plus 20 be a plus 40 key. Why? Simple. The Mythic Plus keys don't actually have a limit. The design is about infinite scaling, but there's hardly any infinity when people are stuck at plus 30s, since everything one-shots you there every time. Either cap the entire key scaling period, which would be boring and make people stop pushing, or increase the numbers even just to give the players a bigger sense of scale. Bigger numbers make people feel better about how high they can push. See Diablo 3. Removing soft caps for key levels creates the, coining this, classic feeling, also known as the sandboxy freedom to go as high as we can feeling, which worked for Diablo 3, which will work for WoW, worked for Shadowlands Alpha Torghast as well, by the way. Affixes. Make as many as you want, as shitty as you want them, but let us put them on the key the way we want them, outside Tyrannical and Fortified, which can remain on a rotation. Despite their blandness...
What would you pick? There would just be a best in slot pick, that, you know, like everyone would just look up on Wowhead, what's the easiest affixes, and that would be the choices people would make. I think that would just make it would just be silly.
And criticism, those two are the only real affixes that give a sense of scaling. It's the scaling people expect in a game. More HP, more damage. As
more
opposed
affixes,
to abstract scaling like Raging or Sanguine.
Like faded rating when you attach more affixes, I guess? Or more
affixes added to the key also increase the rewards at the end proportionally. They can be an extra item, extra hero coins, or extra gold. You can even have a prompt.
So not really a choice of affixes, but how many affixes? That's what he's saying.
Like Torghast, where before a key, each player gets to choose which of these three or any other rewards they get at the end. Let the player play to get what they want. You can balance the difficulty of the affixes with the rewards at the end. I bet your butt people would be more willing to do necrotic or explosive if those affixes gave bigger rewards at the end. Force players to add a negative affix every 10 key levels with the increase in overall Mythic plus key level cap, but also force them to add a positive affix every 15 levels, so a little bit more. Yes, positive, aka Reaping, which was just stupid fun, but AoE cap flame, we will get to that as well. Awakened is also another one that can be really cool for skipping or setting dungeon routes, or simply OP but fun anima powers or cobalt assembly powers. Why not combine Mythic Plus with the Torghast powers, where players can fulfill their power fantasy and become absolute gods in Mythic Plus? Won't that create some awesome plays, some awesome dungeon experience? Remember that time when I did 10 million damage on that boss? That was cool. Maybe they can be RNG. We liked it in 8.3 with corruptions when it was stupid overpowered. We liked it in Shadowlands Alpha when Torghast was actually good. And of course, remove AoE cap. Yes, enough. It was a cute experiment, but
I hated AoE cap. I still hate AoE cap. I don't know why they did that.
I cannot recall any of
the 36.
Felt great
to grab a giant group of people and just blast them down. But you know, it was fun, so Blizzard got rid of it.
39 now that I played over the last 4 expansions that have been made more fun because they were capped. No to, but otherwise you just have a massive... No, sorry, but no to any kind of design that favors balance over fun. Players don't want to be balanced or play fairly. Players want to have fun and absolutely destroy the meters. They want to be the OP class, hence why so many people look and ask for meta tier lists. When they complain, they actually complain mostly when their class is not as OP, and who even cares about being a god in an M+ key that has infinite scaling? Isn't the game supposed to be about fun? We can talk about rewarding balanced player skill level as well in, you know, challenging content, but in a second. And if you do remove AoE cap, we still won't be able to pull like we did in BFA with the way the devs make the modern dungeons, because there are and still will be too many mobs immune to CC and or with very dangerous casts that would make the need of more interrupts the limiting factor over how many you end up pulling, aka indirectly capping AoE without capping the player's perception of their character's power, making it less fun. Endpoint, killing dozens and hundreds of monsters at once is...
You felt godlike, man. It was a great feeling to make huge pulls and AoE them down. That's what I don't get why they did that. They didn't like I guess the strategy for I really think they did it because of the dungeon invitational that they do, and they didn't like how it looked. But screw that, man. Don't friggin' make changes to the game based on a stupid-ass tournament.
Doesn't have to be the norm, but it cannot be eliminated forever either.
And
Find
I like
a better
watching
way.
that tournament.
Double the dungeon pool. It's time. 8 dungeons in a modern 2023 MMO is silly when we have currently 125 dungeons in the dungeon journal. Surely we can have 16 in a seasonal pool of 5 to 6 months of game time. 8 dungeons can be the current expansion dungeons with...
The one thing about more dungeons, though, is I gotta learn more tanking paths as a tank, and I already suck at that shit. I gotta actually go and do some research. I can't do that.
8 more being from previous expansions or whatever combinations lets us play Knockout Offensive more than once as a Mythic Plus dungeon. Plus any new dungeons that get added over the course of the expansion fill in that role as well. Keys will no longer deplete. We mentioned this in a previous video. If you fail the timer, the key will remain the same, with the NPC at the end giving you an option to reduce its level or swap it to a random dungeon of the same level. As for levers, if a person leaves the group, you can reset the dungeon and have the same key at the end. If you leave a key, you get a 30-minute lever penalty. If you get kicked out of the key, you acquire no penalty, to stop those assholes from exploiting kicking. But if a person sucks and you want to kick them because they will just be a troll, your penalty is that you lost the time invested in the key and they have the same penalty by default. You don't like raids and dungeons? Then bring back story scenarios, and they can be anything, even similar to the Battle for Lord Run style content we had in BFA.
Yeah,
you can queue solo for big story events and play out the game as part of an MMO that's populated by NPCs.
I remember the whole bombing of Theramore. That was such a cool solo queuing event. I actually enjoyed that.
Or queue it with friends or other people. This will make the people that don't want guilds happy and solo content interesting. Having a solo challenge mode every expansion, whatever that ends up being, is good. Mage Tower clearly proved to be insanely positive and fun, and Alpha Torghast was incredibly popular and enjoyed by the people during that time. Ask anyone. Having a Mage Tower-like content, each expansion makes it possible to be balanced for the current design of each spec, considering the Legion Mage Tower does not take into account the current design of classes since it was made for the game as it was then and would have to be redesigned anyway to factor in the new talent and stuff. For the most part, the Dragonfly professions are the most fun I've ever had with professions, but it's clear they need more polishing. One of these can be something to address catch-up for knowledge points and a way to refund points. The refund especially can be introduced in a way so as to not be exploited, maybe once per patch, maybe once per month, maybe at the expense of 500 or so hero coins, possible nonetheless. If anything, for the purpose of alleviating the fact that the specializations are not clear enough where you need to go to accomplish what you want. And by the time you or someone else figures it out, you are 100 points and 2 months of farming deep and you cannot change it. I want to engage with what I find fun in the professions, not what is arbitrarily limited by the system. Aside from this, add dyes. Let us create dyes from all professions, or at least from one that can make us color our armor sets. There are already recolors in the game, and some pieces with black don't match other pieces with black, and we don't have enough black.
But the thing about dyeing gear is it kind of loses its, its recognizability. Already transmog has kind of ruined the whole, when you look at somebody, you could tell they're a badass kind of thing. So if you start being able to dye gear, then what's the point of mythic gear versus heroic gear versus normal? That's what identifies gear in WoW, is the color of it. So I don't know. I don't know about that one.
Black pieces of that same shade of black, so I can make my dark black paladin death knight fantasy come true. Also, we used to make more cosmetics and mounts with professions. What happened? Can we have those back as well, please? Last but not least, it's clear WoW is not just about orcs, humans, dwarfs, and elves anymore. Okay, then let's just get them all now, please. I won't mention how many times and how many years ago people have been asking for this, so let's just crack it. Horde Alliance can remain the same, but we will have a third neutral faction. In this faction, we will have a few races that each can be a certain class. Ideally, that would make...
Do factions even matter anymore? What would be the point of a third one?
Makes sense, but after Tauren Fire Mages, I won't die on this hill. First off, ogres. Yeah, baby. Give me ogres, warlocks, warriors, mages, shamans, hunters, and with the capital city in Dire Maul made possible through a quest with a bronze dragon at the entrance to just revert me to old Dire Maul if needed, or with the capital city having a portal inside for the dungeon that will of course be reworked and scaled up because Dire Maul is cool and I like ogres.
This game already doesn't make sense enough. If you bring a new player in and now there's 3 factions, they're gonna be like, what the hell is this about? And you'll be like, yeah, they just added it in for no reason.
Next is Vrykul with the classes of warriors, hunters, priests, and rogues. Their capital city would clearly be in Utgard. Cool. And here is a cool one for you. Draconids. You can keep your skinny geckos, but give me roided Draconids. That can be evokers, warriors, mages.
This should have been what they did from day one. They'll never do this anymore.
Mages, hunters, rogues, priests, shamans.
It's too much testosterone, too much Giga Chad. WoW doesn't like that kind of stuff.
Primalists and and druids, because you know, green dragons are tied to the Emerald Dream, where druidism was originated from. Surely they can be dragon bears and dragon cats if we can already have owl bears and tree cats. And of course, the capital city will be Valdrakken. Knolls! Hell yeah, baby.
What?
Didn't expect
Playable
this one,
Knolls.
did ya? Be honest, as much as you hate the first boss in Brackenhide, or bosses, Knolls have been really cool to see back in Dragonflight. They can be warriors, hunters, shamans, warlocks, rogues, and their capital city, get
can be
this,
all the
Camp
classes.
Hogwash, built as a monument dedicated towards Hogger and his valiant deeds of killing millions of level 8 to 12s in Elwyn Forest on the banks on the river leading to Duskwood and Westfall. And of course, Murlocs. Too silly? Maybe.
That's
No
big.
sillier than stuffed plushy foxes that go grrrr in an anime-like voice, of which I'm still mad they haven't made like Rocket in Guardians of the Galaxy. Missed opportunity. But Murlocs, which can be Murloc and Murloc. Alright, I'll stop. But warriors for sure. Shamans, because we have seen them around. Hunters,
Jesus.
rogues, and they would have the capital
Please,
city
please don't do this. This game's already cartoony enough. Please don't.
on the shores of Stranglethorn Vale.
He's going-
11.0 will at
This
least
video's
bring
going
us
off a
some
cliff.
cool dwarfs and elemental badassery. Check our video on it right here where we covered all of the leaks and
was a good
known
video, we
facts about
watched
the
it.
next expansion and what to expect. Maybe some changes we talked about in this video, maybe player housing that we didn't mention because the subject just felt overused. But
Player
the things we
pirate
do
housing,
know and you
maybe.
can find out by watching the video are at least really cool.
Yeah, good video. Good video. I mean, his main thing was fix the currency. Fix the currency fixing WoW. I didn't realize currency was that big of an issue until he talked about it, really, but it really is.